everybody, Frank Turner here on tour in the United States of America, and I'm such a kind of geography and history nerd, I thought I'd do a little thing with facts about the place we're in. We're in Charlotte, North Carolina, named after Queen Charlotte Mecklenburg of England, who was Queen at the time. I've been looking up some exciting facts about the town. It's the site of the first gold rush in American history, 1799. Somebody was using a 17-pound rock as a doorstop, and somebody else figured out it was made of gold, which is pretty cool. Charlotte also the home of pimento cheese. Americans sort out your cheese. But yeah, the home of pimento cheese from 1953, and to this day there are 45,000 pounds of pimento cheese produced annually in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is kind of insane and gross. Also, I love this one. Charlotte is the largest metropolitan area in the continental United States that doesn't have a zoo. Figure that shit out, friends. It's the home of NASCAR, as we know. I have a NASCAR tattoo on my leg, got my Dale Earnhardt. And also in 2009, Charlotte was the site of my first ever show in the Carolinas, where on this very stage, I opened up a show for The Offspring on tour in July 2009. Frank Turner here on tour in the USA. Time for some of my Frank facts. We're in Dallas, the home of a number of seriously cool things. It's the home of the 7-Eleven. It's where Bonnie and Clyde came from. It's the home of the frozen margarita machine. And I think I'm right in saying the margarita itself. And most importantly, Barney the Purple Dinosaur comes from Dallas as well. Phoenix, Arizona, which is the largest city, which is also a state capital, but also the largest city in the USA that doesn't have its own Amtrak, and a city which only 3% of homes have basements, and only 40% of the people who live here were actually born in Arizona. But also, Phoenix is where Alex Cooper comes from, and is where Stevie Nicks was born as well, and it is still apparently illegal to hunt camels in Phoenix. Good morning, Fact fans. Frank here. I'm in LA, in Hollywood, in fact. Tonight we play at the Palladium. So here's some facts. It was designed and built by Gordon Kaufman, who also built the Hoover Dam, and it's on the site of the former Paramount Movies lot. The Palladium was opened in 1940, and the music on the opening night was provided by the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra with Frank Sinatra singing. Movies that have been filmed here include The Blues Brothers and Almost Famous. Absolutely bloody everybody's played here, of course. My favourites include the MC5, Jimi Hendrix Experience, Black Flag, Nirvana, Bad Religion, and of course Megadeth filmed a live DVD here. And most importantly, tonight, we're playing here. Good morning from San Francisco, everybody. Seems like people are enjoying these history fact stories I'm doing, and I'm enjoying getting used to using Instagram stories. So I'm in San Francisco, I'm outside the famous Warfield Theatre. The Warfield Theatre was opened in 1922 by David Warfield as a vaudevillian theatre. It features performances in its early years from people like Charlie Chaplin, Al Jolson and Louis Armstrong. The Warfield's been open on and off ever since then. In 1979 and 1980, Bob Dylan did multi-show residencies. Also in the 1980s, The Clash played a show here. They still had seats in at the time. The Clash refused to play unless the first few rows were taken out so there could be a pit. Since then, loads of other people have played here. The Grateful Dead played here for ages, obviously. Slayer did a live record here, and Green Day and The Killers and loads of other people. And tonight, of course, Frank Turner and the Sleeping Souls with Cero, Homeless Gospel Choir and Men's Goods at the Warfield in San Francisco. Hi everybody, sorry we had a couple of days off the history facts. I had to go home for a funeral, but I'm back. I'm on the road again. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, and I know that you're all dying for some history facts about the Paris of the Plains, founded in 1830, Kansas City. So Kansas City was originally going to be called Possum Trot or possibly Rabbitville, but they went with Kansas City in the end, but didn't put it in Kansas. It's in the state of Missouri. Apparently during Prohibition, they used to have bars that straddled the state border and people would run from one end to the other when the cops showed up. Good morning, Fact fans. Today we are in the Twin Cities, and in fact we're in St. Paul rather than in Minneapolis. So today we're going to do some history facts about St. Paul. You excited, Matthew?
Very.
Okay, let's get started. So Matt, St. Paul was founded in the 1700s. It was a trading fort. It was originally known as Pig's Eye, which was named after the local tavern owner and whiskey bootlegger, and only later changed its name to St. Paul. It was also known as the last city of the East for a quite long time. Good morning, everybody. I'm in Chicago. Today I've discovered the word Chicago as a corruption of the Algonquin word for onion field. It's also a city that was lifted up in its entirety in the 80s and 50s and 60s in the Great Raising of Chicago, and it's got a river that flows backwards. Chicago also has the world's longest continuous street. Western Avenue is 23.5 miles long. Hugh Hefner was here, and the first Playboy Mansion was here in the 1950s, and more excitingly, the world's first gay rights advocacy group was formed here in 1924. Chicago is also where Walt Disney was born. It's also the home of the Twinkie, and my favourite thing, the world's largest complete T-Rex skeleton is in Chicago, and it's called Sue.
Today's history fact.
is that it was Kahir's birthday yesterday, and we're quite hungover. But we're playing the House of Blues Cleveland tonight. It's sold out. I'm also doing an in-store today as well. Bye. Good morning, Fact fans. I'm having my breakfast in Boston, and we're going to be here for ages, which is exciting, but it also means I'm going to try and ration out my facts a little bit here, so we've got something to talk about as we go through the days. Anyway, brace yourselves. Boston facts incoming. Famous and interesting Boston residents include Dr. Seuss, Leonard Nimoy, Ho Chi Minh worked as a busboy in a restaurant here for some time in the 1940s and 1950s, and of course, one of my very favourites, Ben Franklin. Boston, day 2. Last night was an absolute blast. I'm very excited about tonight's show as well, but of course I owe you guys some facts. So let me gather myself, get some facts together, and we'll get started. Things that are illegal in Boston: spitting on the sidewalk, keeping a mule on the second story of a building, and for 22 years in the 1600s, Christmas. In 1919, a tanker that contained 2 million gallons of molasses exploded in Boston's North End, releasing a 13,000-ton wave of sugar that destroyed vast areas of the city and killed 21 people, and the smell only faded away in 1995. And finally, of course, we're back at the Royale for round 2 tonight. We're going to be there with Restorations, Jeff Rosenstock, me and the Sleeping Souls. It's going to be an absolute blast. We're playing different set lists every night, and I will see you all there. Hi everybody, I haven't done any history facts for a while because I've been busy, but here we are. We're in Fredericton, New Brunswick today for a duo show with me and Matt Nazir.
Hello!
Let's get started with a couple of history facts about Fredericton. Fredericton is known as the Poets' Corner of Canada because of lots of poets that I'm afraid I haven't heard of come from here, but Oscar Wilde did once lecture here. In slightly sadder news, Benedict Arnold, famous American traitor, who also lived in Fredericton for a time. In 1845, they started building Christ Church Cathedral here in Fredericton, which, if you count this as British soil, which it seems slightly questionable to me, makes it the first cathedral started on British soil since the Norman Conquest of 1066. My favourite history fact is that outside the City Hall there's a fountain which includes a statue known as Freddie the Little Nude Dude. It was built in 1885, which makes him 2 years older than the Statue of Liberty. And finally, of course, today I am Matt Nazir.
Hello.
Are going to be playing at the Boyce Farmers Market later today. Doors are at 6:30. There's some great supports. Tickets still available. We'll see you down there, and hopefully England win the World Cup in the meantime.
Yay!
Hi everybody, Frank here. I'm back on tour again. I'm in Portland, Oregon, and I've just remembered that I was going to be doing history facts every day, so I better get the hell on with it. So everybody put on your big boy or girl pants and get ready for some history facts coming at you right now. Been to Portland many times before, of course, but I was excited today to discover that Portland is home to the world's smallest city park. Mills End Park is 0.29 square meters large, which is fucking tiny, and I'm hoping to go and visit it later. Portland got its name after a coin toss, apparently. Two of the founders were deciding whether to call it Portland or it would have been another Boston. We've already got one in England. But that guy lost the coin toss, and Portland is called Portland, which is a much better name. Tonight we're at the Crystal Ballroom, built in 1914 as the Cotillion Ballroom. The most exciting fact, which isn't confirmed that I could find out, is that apparently in 1965 Little Richard fired Jimi Hendrix from his band on stage here at the ballroom for being crap at the guitar. Hi everybody, not least history fans, Frank here. Apologies for not doing history facts in Calgary and Edmonton. I've been very busy finishing the first draft of a new book, but here we are today in Saskatoon. I know you're all dying for it, so let's talk about the history of Saskatoon. Inhabited for over 6,000 years and known as the Paris of the Prairies because of the number of bridges across the river, Saskatoon is one of the sunniest spots in Canada and is also home to the largest number of Tim Hortons per capita in the country, so that's excellent news. Saskatoon is also home to Canada's only, and therefore probably the world's only, drive-through pierogi store, Baba's Homestyle. Haven't been there yet, but maybe I'll have time to get there before the show. If you're not from here, you probably know Saskatoon as the home of Joni Mitchell, but personally I'm more excited about the fact that in 2016, 7,681 people participated in the world record biggest ever snowball fight. Nice work, Saskatoon. Good morning, Fact fans. Frank here. I'm in Winnipeg, which, as you'll probably know, is exciting for me because I'm the world's biggest Weaker Thans fan. We're at the Burton Cummings Theatre, where the Weaker Thans recorded live at the Burton Cummings Theatre. We're playing here tonight. But first of all, of course, let's talk about the history of Winnipeg and Manitoba. What do we know about Winnipeg and Manitoba? Well, first of all, it's the place with the highest and lowest recorded temperature in all of Canada. It has the highest number of curling clubs per capita, and for 16 years, Winnipeg has held the record for the most Slurpees bought from a 7-Eleven per year. You might already know this. In the First World War, Lieutenant Harry Colborne took a bear with him to Europe to fight in the trenches, which he named Winnie after Winnipeg, his home city, which then ended up in London Zoo, which is where A.A. Milne saw it, and hence the birth of Winnie the Pooh. Kind facts about Winnipeg. In 1959, Winnipeg became the first city in the world to have a dedicated emergency services number, 911. But more exciting than that, in 2012, in a Tim Hortons, 288 times the person at the front of the queue paid for the order of the person behind them, which I just think is magic. Good morning, Ottawa. There was I getting ready to do some history facts when I heard about some recent history, namely that the day before yesterday, I heard about the tornadoes that landed in the city and caused a lot of destruction. So we have a plan. The show tonight at the Bronson Centre is going ahead. We have power, we have Sam Coffey and the Iron Lungs, and we have Bad Cop, and there's a handful of tickets. But we will also be taking and making donations for tornado relief charities while we're there. So please come down and help out and get involved. See you there.
Good morning, Fact fans. It is time, the war is said, to go back on tour, so I'm currently at the wonderful Southend Airport, but I'm heading to Antwerp for the first show of the European tour with Pup and Zyla, and I thought we'd talk about some facts about the city of Antwerp. Antwerp was home to the world's first printed newspaper just over 400 years ago. It's also got one of the oldest zoos in the world, which is still open now, and of course in 1920 it hosted the first Olympics after the First World War. Allegedly, Antwerp is named after the Dutch for to throw a hand. There was a giant called Antigoon who lived by the river who cut people's hands off, and then Brabo the hero turned up and cut Antigoon's hand off and threw it in the river. The other theory is that it's simply the Dutch for at the wharf. I know which one I prefer. In 1585, as per usual, the English were on the continent fighting people. Battle of Antwerp. Beforehand, the English soldiers drank the local drink Geneva for Dutch courage, which later evolved into the British drink of gin, which generally tends to make me cry when I drink it. And of course, finally, once I get off this flight at the other end, we will be playing Zappa tonight. I'm incredibly excited about the fact that we're playing with both Pup and Zyla. It's going to be a great show. There's a handful of tickets left. The Sleeping Souls are there. It's going to be an awesome tour. I'll see you there. Good morning, everybody. I am in the fine city of Tilburg in the Netherlands for the first time in my life, and tonight we're playing a show here, but I thought, of course, we'd kick off the day by talking about some history. Tilburg's first mentioned in the records in 709 AD, but then not mentioned again for ages. They built a castle in the 15th century that they knocked down in the 19th century, and it officially became a city in 1809, so it's kind of a young place in that way. King William II was a big fan of Tilburg, and he was the one who got it incorporated as a city, built a school here that Vincent van Gogh attended, and he built a palace, but unfortunately it was only completed a month after he died, which is a bummer. In the post-war era, there was a lot of demolition in the city where they knocked down quite a lot of the old stuff, which seems sad to me. They cut down the old lime tree, and there was a mayor who was known as Cease the Sloper, Cease the Destroyer, who knocked down quite a lot of the old quarters, but it still seems very nice. And of course, most importantly for me and for today, tonight we play at 013 Propodium. There it is, and it's me, it's Pup, it's Zyla. It's the second show of the European tour, and I'm very stoked.
Good morning, the world, from Luxembourg. It's that time of day again. Let's talk about some facts about Luxembourg. Luxembourg is a very small place at 998 square miles. It's larger than Dorset and smaller than Oxfordshire, so there's some weird facts coming your way right now. The history of Luxembourg begins in 963 AD when Siegfried, Count of Ardennes, bought Lucilenburg, which means little fortress, and made it an independent place, and that's where the name Luxembourg comes from. The size of Luxembourg gives it some weird stats. A third of the country is covered in forest. It's got the second highest GDP in the world after Qatar, and my favourite one, Luxembourg is the place in the world where you are least likely to get shot. You'll be excited to know that the only time that a Luxembourger has won a gold medal at the Olympics was at the Helsinki Olympics in 1952 when Josie Bartel won a gold in the 1500 metres. He later went on to become a government minister. And of course tonight I'm playing in Luxembourg. It's my 7th show in the Grand Duchy, the only Grand Duchy left in Europe. My second one at the wonderful Den Atelier. We got Pup, we got Zyla, we're sold out. It's going to be a killer show, and I'll see you here. Ladies and gentlemen, bonus history fact. Today is the 10th anniversary of Matt Nazir's first show with me and the Sleeping Souls, which was at the Leeds Cockpit on the 21st of
October 2008.
And we looked younger then. Good morning, everybody. I'm in Wurzburg today, which, despite being a Bronze Age settlement and being officially incorporated in 704 AD, has yet to have a show by Frank Turner in it. So tonight we're going to be at Post Heller, and I'm very excited. Let's do some facts. Wurzburg is in Bavaria, but you'd be unwise to say that too loudly in public because it's actually part of Lower Franconia. Wurzburg Cathedral, consecrated in 788 by Charlemagne, the king of the Franks, and of course the Western Roman Empire from the year 800.
Between 1626 and 1631 were the Wurzburg witch trials under Bishop Philip Adolf, during which 600 to 900 innocent women were burned for being witches, and the whole thing was only brought to an end by the invasion of the Swedish under Gustav Adolf, which must have been blessed relief. On the 16th of March 1945, tragically, 90% of the city was destroyed in 17 minutes by the RAF during a bombing raid. But thankfully, since then, the Wurzburgers have done a wonderful job of rebuilding the city, including the Marienburg, which I visited yesterday, and very nice it was too. And of course, it is my first ever show in Wurzburg tonight with the Sleeping Souls, with Pup, with Zylaroo at the Post Halle. There are still a handful of tickets available. It's the first show in Germany on this tour. It's been a while. I'm sorry about that. We're very excited to be back. I'll see you tonight. Bis bald. Good morning, everybody from Stuttgart. It's lovely to be back here at the LK Longhorn tonight, and it's also exciting, of course, to be in the city with the world's largest pig museum with over 50,000 artifacts. Let's do some facts. Stuttgart is a city of motor cars. Daimler and Benz from here. In 1886, Carl Benz invented the first three-wheeled petrol-powered motor car, and the German word for petrol, Benzin, is named in his honour to this day. Stuttgart not only has the world's first ever concrete television tower, but was also the place where Richard Steiff invented the teddy bear, apparently. I can't really find any more information about that, but it sounds cool. This is some good shit. The local ravioli dish is called Maltaschen, but its actual name is Herrgottscheißerler, which means Lord God Deceivers, because a local monk tried to find a way of eating meat during Lent without God seeing by hiding it underneath pasta. And of course, we are at LK Longhorn tonight with Pup and with Zylaroo. The show is sold out. It's going to be a blast. I'm very excited for the gig tonight. So I will see you all here. Good morning, Fact fans. It's a busy day for me in Vienna today, but it's lovely to be back in the home of the Habsburg Empire and, of course, many other things since then as well. So let's get started and talk about some history facts. Vienna has the oldest continually running newspaper in the world, the Wiener Zeitung, which has been running since 1707. It has the world's oldest Ferris wheel, and indeed, I was excited to discover this morning, it's also the home of Pez candy, which was created here in 1927. The Viennese waltz is obviously from Vienna. It's a development of the Austrian national dance, the Ländler. It was popularised through the music of the Strauss family, and as evidenced by what I do at the end of the show every night, I don't really know how to do it. Slightly more personal on a level, as well as being home to Mozart, Beethoven, Freud, and all those kind of people, Clive James, from whom I took the album title Be More Kind, wrote a book called Cultural Amnesia, which spends a lot of time talking about Viennese cafe culture in the earlier 20th century, and it's highly recommended. And last but never least, playing tonight at Gasometer with Pup and with Zylaroo. There are still tickets available for the show, and indeed after the show, I'm going to be heading over to Flex for a DJ set after party type affair. So I will see you all later today. Good morning, Fact fans. I'm in Graz. I've got a hangover because I was DJing in Vienna last night, but we're going to do a special History Facts today with special guest Dougie Murphy,
Hi.
production manager, and we're going to learn all about the history of Graz, first mentioned in the records in 1128. So, Doug, Graz, home to lots of very important and famous people. We've got Johannes Kepler, the astronomer, Erwin Schrödinger, the physicist, and Nikola Tesla, the all-round badass, all lived and studied here. And it's the hometown of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Whoa!
Doug, you'll be pleased to know that during the Napoleonic Wars in 1809, the Schlossberg here in Graz was besieged by Napoleon's Grand Army and held by 900 soldiers for 3 months, and eventually they were ordered to give it up by the arseholes in Vienna.
No way.
Doug, you'll be pleased to hear that Graz is very important to the Slovenes. In fact, in 1592, the first Slovene dictionary was published in Graz.
Who were the Slovenes?
From Slovenia.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And of course, tonight we're playing here at Helmut Listhaler with Pup and with Zylaroo. There's still a few tickets available. And Dougie's got a bonus history fact for you.
The fucking A-Team live here.
We found the A-Team van. It's in Graz. I have no idea why. Good morning, everybody. Dzień dobry from Warszawa, from Warsaw. I love this city. It's a place I find fascinating and haunting, known as the Phoenix City, given that pretty much the entire thing was destroyed during the war and rebuilt since. So let's talk about some facts. The Palace of Culture and Science, a post-war gift from Stalin, is the tallest building in Warsaw now, but it used to be the Warsaw Radio Mast, built in 1974 at 646 metres. It was the tallest structure in the world until it fell down in 1991, was only topped by the Burj Khalifa in 2010. The first woman to win the Nobel Prize was Marie Curie, who was, of course, Polish and from Warsaw, but also from Warsaw was Julius Fromm, who in 1912 invented the latex condom, which was apparently a major improvement on the rubber version. I studied Polish history at university. I've read many books, I've been to many museums, but today I learned a new fact about Warsaw, which I bloody love, which is that 8,000 years ago, is the world's first evidence of cheese production is just outside of Warsaw. And of course, tonight we will be playing at Proxima in Warsaw. Excited to be back. It's an early show, doors at 6 o'clock, playing with Pup and with Styler Roo. Tickets are still available. Very excited to be in Poland, Germany. All right, I'll see you there. Good morning, Fact fans. I'm extremely excited because for the first time in my life, I'm in Krakow today. Tess, are you excited?
I'm so excited.
And we're going to learn about some facts about a city first mentioned in the 7th century and that was the capital of Poland until 1596.
Oh my god.
In the Church of the Blessed Virgin Mary in the centre of Krakow, there is the Hymn of Mary is performed once an hour on the hour, and it's always interrupted in the same place, which commemorates an attack on the city in 1240, where the guy who tried to warn the townspeople was shot before he could warn them.
He was shot?
He was. The central market square of Krakow is 200 metres by 200 metres, making it the largest medieval plaza in the world. And there's a big statue of Polish writer Adam Mickiewicz in the middle, which, according to one website I was reading, has a hidden penis.
Hidden penis?
A hidden penis. I'm going to go. My absolute mega excitement today is I'm going to head over to Nowa Huta, which is a Stalinist suburb, which is apparently pretty much preserved as it was in the communist era, where there is one of the only permanent Beksinski exhibitions, my favourite artist, which I'm going to go and have a look at very soon. And of course today we are playing a show at Quadrat here in Krakow. It's our first time with Pup, with Zyla Roo. Tess is going to be playing air guitar on the side of the stage all night, and tickets are available. It's an early show, doors at 6, we're done by 10. I'll see you there. Happy Halloween from Hungary. Today I'm on the Danube in Budapest, one of my absolute favourite cities in the world. I'm brimming with facts today. We might have to do an extra one because I've got too many good ones, so let's get started. Budapest has been home to many excellent people, 13 Nobel Prizes from here. Eric Weiss, of course, Harry Houdini came from Budapest, and of course Erno Rubik, who invented the Rubik's Cube, and Laszlo Biro, who invented the Biro. Built in 1895, the subway system here is the oldest one in continental Europe, although slightly beaten by London. And then in 1865, one of the oldest zoos in the entire world, which I have yet to visit. Fascinatingly, Budapest plays home to the northernmost Islamic holy site in the world, Baba Gül, who is a holy man, died here in 1541, and there's a shrine for him. There's also the second largest synagogue in the world, which is the largest in Europe. Bonus fact, Elvis Presley, there he is, his 1956 television performance of Peace in the Valley brought attention to the 1956 uprising that was taking place in Budapest, and as a result he's an honorary citizen of Budapest, and there's a street named after him. And finally, I will be playing tonight at Aquarium with the Sleeping Souls, with Pup, with Zyla Roo. There are a few tickets left. We're very excited to be back here in Hungary again. Thanks for having us. I'll see you later on. Buongiorno Roma. Time for some facts. Kind of a difficult one today because there's so many facts about Rome. Founded in 753 BC, inhabited before that, home of the Holy Roman Empire, the papacy, the Roman Empire, the Roman Republic, and indeed the state of Italy. And of course, Cahir today.
Hey!
Rome, Cahir, you'll be pleased to hear, was the first city in the world to top 1 million inhabitants in 50 BC, which wasn't beaten until London in the 19th century.
Ooh,
And it's also got the world's only museum of pasta.
interesting.
Cahir,
Yo,
I bet you thought that St. Peter's Basilica in Rome was the biggest Christian church in the world.
I did actually.
Well, you'd be right up until 1989, after which you'd be wrong, as with most things. In Côte d'Ivoire and Yamoussoukro, they built a bigger church in 1989, and that's the biggest one in the world. Everybody knows that Cahir Doherty loves cats.
Meow.
You're allergic to them, right?
Yes.
Well, in Rome, cats have squatters' rights. If there are ever more than 5 cats in one place, they can't legally be evicted, and they roam the streets. They're like free citizens. I like cats. Bonjour Paris, good morning. I've started my day with show number 2268 at the American School in Paris, and now I'm heading back to Trevendo for tonight's show. But of course, in the interim, it's time to do some history facts, so let's get started. Paris, France is the #1 Paris in the world. There are 37 others. It was originally a Roman settlement called Lutetia, and its motto is Fluctat ne mergitor, the Latin for tossed but not sunk, like a boat, which I think is awesome. The RER train service, the regional service around Paris, was originally going to be called the Métro Express Régional Défense Étoile, but then they realised that that acronym made MERDE, merde, the French for shit, so they called it the RER instead. Good morning, fact fans. Let's get this show on the road once again. I'm in New Zealand. In fact, I'm in Wellington, which is the southernmost capital in the world, and it's the furthest away from home. We're going on the Be More Kind tour, as can be attested by the insane journey and jet lag to get here. But anyway, let's talk about some facts. The Maoris call Wellington Harbour Te Wanga Nui Atara, and they've been settled here since at least 1280. The British arrived in 1839 and set up a settlement that is named after Arthur Wellesley, the first Duke of Wellington, who won the Battle of Waterloo. Lots of interesting, famous, funny and talented people from Wellington. Obviously Peter Jackson, everyone knows about the Lord of the Rings thing, but also Flight of the Conchords, Russell Crowe is from here, Richard Curtis was born here, and my favourite New Zealand band, Shihad. The National Parliament building in Wellington, known as the Beehive, legend has it that the architect who came up with the design drew it on a napkin as a joke and never thought it would actually be built, but they went ahead and built it anyway. Well done, New Zealand. Good morning, fact fans. We are now heading for Auckland, an area that was settled by the Maori in 1350 AD, who called it Tamaki Makaurau, then of course settled by the British, and it used to be the capital of New Zealand, but it isn't anymore. Wellington is. Anyway, let's talk about some other facts. Apparently, when you're in and around Auckland, you can walk from the Tasman Sea to the Pacific Ocean in 4 to 5 hours. Not something I have time to do today, alas. There are over 50 volcanoes in the Auckland region, and the tallest man-made structure in the Southern Hemisphere in the Sky Tower. The Auckland Museum has the largest collection of Maori taonga, which are treasures, in the world. The city itself has the largest Polynesian population of any city in the world. And interestingly, Auckland is home to one of the only places in the world that has rainforest outside of the tropics. Famous people from Auckland, obviously we got Sir Edmund Hillary, who climbed Everest. We have Jonah Lomu, the rugby player, pop singer Lorde, not to be confused with Finnish band Lordi, and my mate Ed, about whom I wrote the first verse of the song Polaroid Picture. Good afternoon, fact fans. I am in Brisbane, Australia. They let us in this morning, which is excellent news. We're very excited to be back in Australia again, in Bris Vegas, in the Sunshine State. I'm very tired, very jet lagged, but let's talk about some facts. Two Aboriginal tribes, the Turrbal and the Jagira, lived on either side of the river and actually called the area of Brisbane Meanjin, which means place shaped like a spike. And in 1823, John Oxley encountered 3 convicts who'd been living with the Aborigines, who took him here, and they founded the city of Brisbane. In the Second World War, Brisbane was the busiest submarine port in the world because it was the closest Allied port to Japan, but that was out of bombing range for Japanese bombers. So there were 75,000 US troops stationed here during the war. In 1934, Alan H. Young, the president and founder of the Queensland Airmail Society, attempted to launch a rocket from an island in the middle of the river to launch a kind of rocket-based mail service. It didn't work, the rocket crashed in the river, but extra points for trying. Good morning, fact fans. History on the move today. We're in Melbourne, an area occupied by the Kulin people for 40,000 years, and then in 1835, John Batman landed here, and it was originally called Batmania, and it was the capital of Australia from 1901 to 1927. Let's get started. In the city of Melbourne, it is illegal to harness a goat or a dog to a vehicle. It is illegal to sing an offensive song, tune, ditty or ballad within earshot of another person. And it's illegal to offer a reward with no questions asked for something that you've lost. All things I was planning on doing today, but now can't do. In 1856, Melbourne became the first place in the world to institute the 8-hour day. There were lots of chartists who arrived here for the Melbourne Gold Rush, and it was put into legislation, and it was an excellent step forward for workers' rights internationally. In 2009, the world's largest gathering of tall people in a confined space happened in Melbourne. This is a Guinness Book of Records record. I have no idea what the parameters are, but 136 tall people gathered in a confined space. Good morning, fact fans from Melbourne Airport. We are heading to Canberra, the capital city of Australia, in the Australian Capital Territory, the largest inland city in Australia. We're playing in the basement tonight, but let's talk about some facts before we get there. The area of Canberra was settled by the Ngunnawal people, and apparently Canberra means meeting place in their language, although it might also mean women's breasts because of the location of Black Mountain and Mount Ainslie. There's some debate about this, but I know which side that I'm on. In 1908, they decided to settle the argument between Sydney and Melbourne about which was going to be the capital by picking another capital, but it had to be in New South Wales, so they picked the area of Canberra. Built in 1913, it's one of the only planned cities in the world, designed by the Griffins from Chicago. Canberra contains the largest single stainless steel structure in the world at 81 metres high, weighing 200 tonnes. The flagpole on top of the Parliament building takes that record, and there's a big flag at the top of it. Good morning, everybody. As we enter the final stretch of shows for 2018, which has been a long year for me and the Sleeping Souls, today we are heading for Newcastle, Australia. So let's talk about some facts, shall we? Home to the Awabakal people, the Europeans arrived in 1797. Newcastle is the second oldest city in Australia, and it's home to Silverchair, to my friend Jen Buxton, and to Yahoo Serious, whose film Young Einstein continues to confuse my perception of the history of physics. Stockton Beach in Newcastle is the largest moving coastal sand mass in the southern hemisphere, and it's so large in fact that apparently they export sand from Stockton Beach to Hawaii. Who knew? Fort Scratchley is a defence post just outside of Newcastle. It's been a defence post since the 19th century. The fort there was finished in 1882, and in 1942 it was the only coastal battery in Australia that's ever returned fire in a time of war against a Japanese submarine. Good morning, Fact fans. In a van driving to Sydney. We've got Tarrant in the background, we've got Nigel in the background. We had a killer show in Newcastle last night. Hello. And we're going to have a killer show in Sydney tonight, so let's talk about some facts. British convicts started arriving in the Sydney area in 1788 and it was declared a city in 1842. But prior to that, the Darug tribe, the indigenous people, lived in the area, and in fact the indigenous culture around Sydney is the oldest continuously surviving human culture in the world at 30,000 years. The Sydney Opera House was opened in 1973 by the Queen. Paul Robeson was the first performance there in 1960. He sung Old Man River for the workers. It came in 14 times over budget, and Arnold Schwarzenegger won his last Mr. Universe title there in 1980. Sydney Harbour Bridge is the longest wide arch and tallest steel bridge in the world. It's known as the Coat Hanger. It was opened in 1932. Before they opened it, they put 96 railway engines on it to test the strength. When it was opened, a guy called Francis de Groot rode out on a horse, slashed the ribbon, and was later declared insane and fined for...
Good morning, everybody. Today we are heading to the airport to fly to Perth, the most isolated continental city in the world, and indeed the sunniest city in the world by hours of sunshine, and originally home to the Yelagonga tribe. So let's talk about some facts. Perth's Kalgoorlie mine is the largest gold mine in the world. The Argyle mine is the largest diamond mine in the world. Broome has the most pearls in the world. Busselton Jetty is the longest jetty in the southern hemisphere at 1.8 kilometres, and Western Australia has the longest stretch of straight railway in the entire world. A few years ago, some debris from the NASA space station crashed into the Western Australian town of Esperance, who then issued NASA with a littering fine for $400, which NASA have yet to pay. In 1964, Perth athlete Reg Spears, a javelin thrower, found himself stranded at Heathrow Airport without a plane ticket home or the money to buy one, and the solution he came up with, which was successful, was to post himself home to Perth in a wooden box. Hello and welcome to the final history facts of the tour. We're heading for Adelaide today, the city of churches, the city of the half-hour time zone, home of the dual flush toilet, the world's first IVF triplets. The Kawana people first settled there, and from 1836 it was settled by free settlers, no convicts. Let's get going. The Royal Adelaide Hospital is the third most expensive building in history after One World Trade Center and Nicolae Ceausescu's palace in Romania. Adelaide is also home to the world's largest Christmas pageant and the only pandas in the southern hemisphere. A Japanese TV show called Lucy of the Southern Rainbow, based on a book about somebody moving from England to Adelaide, became a massive hit in Iran. So weirdly enough, lots of people in Iran know loads about Adelaide and its landmarks. In 1840, settler John Horrocks brought the first camel to Australia, who was called Harry, and said camel then, by nudging his gun, managed to shoot John Horrocks and shot off his middle finger, after which Harry himself was then shot.